I'm going to focus on the Konopka Signature VCL controls. This library of more than 125 general-purpose native VCL controls includes a wide variety of user interface elements, from panels to edits to buttons to shell controls and widgets, with full support for VCL styles, 32-bit and 64-bit development. They are VCL based controls, so they integrate in with the VCL framework extensively, descending from custom components and existing controls where necessary. But one of the highlights of the signature controls is that it includes more than 100 different custom designers, and these provide quick access to component customizations. This makes the development process of using these controls to set up your interface that much easier. It's really at your fingertips with the different editors that are provided. In addition, you get complete source code for all of the different components and packages and so forth. Not many more slides necessary here. The real value is looking at the components in action. So let's take a closer look at the Konopka Signature VCL controls. I have a new VCL Forms application created, and I have a number of component palette pages. We have panels and edits and lists and so forth, buttons, etc. And my goal is to give you a taste of a variety of the controls that are in the library, how they can help you build better interfaces faster, and take a look at just what type of design time support as well as runtime supports included in the library. And so one of the first things that I encourage people to do when they first start using the signature controls is to right-click on a component or even the form itself, and there are most likely there's going to be a context menu that provides instant access to getting those. So for example, if I wanted to add a toolbar, which is a common element, and even a status bar, I can do that very quickly. Go ahead and add a group bar to my control. Right click, add a couple groups, and we can start building up items inside of each of these if I so chose. Right click on the status bar and actually add specific panes. So if we wanted to add in a clock pane, we can add that and it just shows up right into the display. So very reusable. Drop these down, have version information, progress. If we wanted to change that, let's give it a setting in there. We can come in and set the key status, marquee, etc. Let's go into the toolbars. One of the things that all of our images, all of the buttons and icons are all driven by image lists, which are much more efficient than having individual bitmaps being managed all throughout the application. So one of the things we need to do is we need an image list to manage the buttons that are on our toolbar. So we can add in an image list right by right clicking on this, and I can connect that image list to my toolbar by simply using the context menus. Now I can go and edit this toolbar, and we get a built-in editor that we can display and start clicking and creating buttons in our list, which makes it very easy. You can even add in your own buttons to a custom palette that will be persistent across not only sessions of running inside of Delphi and C++ Builder, but across versions as well. So if you're using some work in XE3 and you're also using XE8, you'll see the same custom images in there. And we notice that we get a little prefix that can be used. We can manage this. We can drag and drop and reorder the items inside of the display, changing the different styles and so forth. What's nice is we can drop any control that we want on here. The component ordering is managed by the control, so we don't have to worry about how they get positioned and how they're managed. It'll wrap them to multiple lines if necessary, but it's very quick and easy to set all of this up. One way to showcase some of the capabilities of the different components is to run the demo program that comes with the raised components and signature controls here. What this allows us to do is see a variety of different capabilities all in a nice condensed demonstration program. And one of the examples that this is highlighting is the custom framing support. One of the neat things is that Windows 10 actually has a style that's very similar to the built-in custom framing style that was added into the signature controls. For example, it has flat border styles and so forth. All of the controls do support custom VCL styles as well. We'll have an example of that a little bit later on. But custom framing is quite powerful because not only does it give us control over what the bordering looks like, but we can even remove some of the borders. And let's say we wanted to make a set of controls that looked more like line styles, and we can set up to make the borders disappear. We just have underscores under each item, and it highlights as we move the mouse around the different controls. We can even have hot tracking and focus color changes. So if I make this, say, a light turquoise, I bring back the different styles. Let's do a hot track, but really make it an aqua color. And as I move around, I can see that this will highlight each of the different controls. There's no coding that's needed for any of this. This is all just managed by property changes that are in the controls. The way we set that up is if we were to drop some components down, we can drop a couple edits, even the button edit, even a memo. Each of these controls has a frame visible property. Now if we go into here, we can change this to be true, and now it uses custom framing, which means it will now take the style that's used, what coloring that's used for the different styles. So I can change this, say, to something very bold and make that red. And even though I've changed it, you may not see it changed because the IDE is using the current theming and the styles, and so we need to change that to custom framing, and now we get the changing of our controls. What's really nice is the ability to connect a bunch of controls to a frame controller. So when we do this, we can change multiple components at the same time. So if we set them all to be the frame controller, now make the changes to this component directly. We can set that to be true, change it to be custom framing as the preference. We'll go in and change our frame color to something equally loud like we had before. We'll make that purple, and now you can see that we can make these changes. We can even change the color of the individual controls to something equally pleasant, and we'll make that look a little greenish with a purple border. So lots of flexibility for managing custom framing capabilities in your application. Well, the tabs example is another one that's extremely powerful control. It's all native. It's not descending from the Windows Common Control, so it gives us a lot more capability to display different tab styles. So we have a default single slant. You can have a back slant, double slant, cut corner, which is nice, rounded corner, which is kind of the old traditional style, and even the newer style with the squared corners. As we go and make these changes, we can show images on each of the tabs, even support tab dragging, which is very nice. Disabled tabs cannot select it or move it, but we know that it's there. Being able to have a drop-down menu show up all of your tabs that are available. This is great if you have lots of different pages. You can even support colored pages, so having a separate color for each page as you need. Very simple to do. All of these are driven by various properties and changes. We can put the tabs on the images on the different sides of the text. We can have close buttons on each tab. We can have one next to the scroller itself. We can even put the orientation, put them on the left. Notice how it will rotate the tabs to be appropriate. We could certainly change them to be horizontal. So whatever style and organization that you want your tabs to have, you can easily find. And there's a number of different ways to colorize things, control the overlap, and so forth. Very easy to use. At the design time feature, let's go ahead and add some in here. Go ahead and drop a page control down, and it has everything that you'd expect to have. New page, you can keep doing the new page. What's nice is you can also switch to the pages very quickly, which is very nice if you've hidden the tabs themselves. So if you have hidden tab sheets, you're making a wizard interface, for example, you'd want to be able to switch between the different tab sheets. Changing the orientation and the styles are all built in. Change that to double slant and change the orientation to be at the bottom, and you're good to go. Everything is all set at your fingertips. Hide all the tabs, show all the tabs, etc. Very, very quick and easy way to manipulate the controls. There's a number of edit controls that are included into the product. They include both date and time edits. One of the nice things with this is, as a calendar control, you have the ability to drop down and pick a dated calendar value. You can also do freeform data entry. So if I type in 0405 and tab, this is because I'm running the US locale. This will be April 5th, 2015. If I was running on a UK or another international locale, 0405 might be April or May 4th, depending on the way that was set up. And so the freeform entry makes very easy to change that. We can do the same thing with typing in times. It'll figure that out. It'll process military and even give you a visual display that you can manipulate and change the time values that you would want. Change that to PM and it makes your change. The spin edit is nice that it supports different button layouts. You can actually make them horizontal, change their direction so that it's much easier to click to make adjustments. Notice they are supporting floating point. We have two different style buttons, which is nice with built-in icons that are available. So if we want to do an accept reject type of edit control, that's very easy to handle. All of our list boxes support groupings, so you essentially put a prefix on the item that you want to be treated as a group, and then you can have a categorized list of items. There's a tab list box. We do have a checklist box. Let me go into the IDE and actually show how we manipulate that, since that has quite a powerful design interface. So if we go to the checklist control, we can drop this down. So we can right click and select edit checklist, and this will allow us to populate the items of the list even at design time. We can go ahead and go and load. I'm going to navigate to some pre-built file that I've created. Go into my demo set here. We'll bring up some ball players. This loads up a set of players that I've already defined, and I can go ahead and add a new one if I want it in here, or I can add in myself, for example, and I'm just hitting the tab stop to add in a new player, and I'm going to say I'm doing pretty well right now, and let's see, 123. That sounds pretty good. Let me add that item. I can move up the item into the list. I can check, uncheck the item as necessary, make any changes, and then click OK to get that look. Now you may note that none of the column data seems to be aligned where I want it. And one quick way to do that is right click and say, let's change this to automatic tab stops. And when you do that, the control figures out based on content where those column values should be. If you're not satisfied for that, if you want more control over it, you can bring up the tab stop editor, and this will allow us to manually manipulate the positioning of the different tabs. And so we can change that. We can even change this here and even make that, say, a right aligned position value. Get a preview of what your list will look like, and then go ahead and say OK, and now we've got our updated list with that value. Of course, anything that you can do at design time, you can do at runtime. So there's methods that are available, properties that allow you to manipulate that. You can even locate items based on the groups that have been set up for that. It's a very powerful way to manipulate that. Let's go to some of the common controls. So check trees and list view descendants provide all the custom framing support we saw before. Here's an example of our splitter control that's being used. So allows you to split a region, and actually this is showing the hotspot areas that we can set up to be one directional or bi-directional. Here is if I click on this, it snaps it to the top. I come back, it snaps it to the back to where it was located. You can even snap it down to the bottom. So very easy to use. Again, let's go into the design environment and see how exactly how easy this is to use. So let me go and drop a new splitter down. Our splitter is rather unique in that it is a container rather than just the splitter bar, which is the traditional VCL based control. So as a container, we can drop anything that we would want on either side. So we can go ahead and drop one of our list boxes on the left pane and align that to the client, and we can see that it automatically occupies that space, and the splitter area is right there. We can make it use the, let's bring up the hotspot, use real-time dragging, and we can even click on these things at design time and get their effect. On the right side, you could drop another splitter down, change its orientation to be vertical, make it align client, and now you've got your traditional navigational control as well as content information. So navigational, summary information, detailed information down at the end. So really nice way to manage that. Dropping any control, we could have another list or a memo in there. Drop that down, line that to the client. If you wanted to drop, say, an image down, which is perfectly functional, you lose out, don't have any align capability on that since it's not a signature control. We'll drop this down, make that align to the client, and we can see that we've lost the border around our particular piece. And rather than drop another panel down to be the frame control for the image, we can let the splitter itself handle that for us. If we go ahead and edit the splitter that we're using, we can pick the lower pane and give it a border. We can give it a flat border and get a preview of what that looks like, and then say OK, and then you can see that now it does indeed have a border that matches the rest of the control. So a lot of flexibility in managing your split areas in your different regions. One of the things I do like to highlight, because it's a challenge with the traditional splitter control, is that when you want to hide something, you can simply go to the pane that you're interested in and hide that. So if we locate the lower right pane, and if we didn't want that to be visible, we just turn off the visible flag. And again, you can do this at runtime dynamically through options and settings. Go ahead and click true, and then it comes back and gives you the correct, resets the position of where the splitter was and so forth. Number of button controls that are available. Some of the nice ones, all of our checkboxes and radio buttons can support custom checkbox states. So you associate an image list with the various states that you want to use, and the control automatically figures out how to best display them. Multi-line captions, you can set different colors. Of course, they pick up whatever VCL style is currently being used. Right now they're showing the Windows 10 native style because that's what's currently being used by the application. We have a little transparent button. You can have different click areas for that. Menu buttons are nice when you have restricted space and you need to show a list of items. Being able to provide a visual cue that a menu is available is a really nice feature for the menu button. Next up, we have a number of display controls. These are controls that provide information in a kind of a unique way, very visual. This is where we would have our regular label control, which handles different styling, rotational capabilities. Our track bar kind of fits into this same realm of controls. Here's a LED display, which allows you to type in or enter in a caption value, and it will automatically scroll it in an LED pattern. And you can control the speed and how fast that operates through properties that are available, and directional, of course. So that's makes it quite simple. There's even an event available when the scrolling is finished, so that if you needed to cycle through multiple lines of text, you could easily do that. The track bar is a fan favorite control in the library because of its flexibility and how easy it is to use. This same control using a custom percent sign as the thumb is the same control as this one using the standard look and feel. Let's go and take a look, and that's the same as this one, which is using the Windows 10 styling. So you have lots of control over how things look. Let's go back into IDE and take a look at the track bar. And one of the things that I like to highlight on the track bar is how flexible and how smart it is, and it doesn't force you to operate and work in a certain way. For example, the traditional track bar, if we take a look at that, let's go find that guy over in the Win32, the track bar here. And we have a very large track that gets used, and if we decided to, let's say we want to make this a volume meter, and we were to change the orientation, it doesn't detect that we've made any kind of change, and it always wants to use whatever the orientation value is set. And if I change it, then it tries to force itself into what sizing it was there, and I have to constantly fight with the control. And one of the things that is most irritating for this is that I can't control the size of the track. I can change the thumb length to make it thinner, but now I can't click on the thumb. It's way too small. So I don't quite have the flexibility that I want. And if I go ahead and look at the min and max values, I can see that I have 0 and 10, but the position value is 0, which is at the top of the control. And if I change that to 10, then it's at the bottom. While not terrible, if I'm wanting to do volume and normally 10 would be at the top, I'm having to manipulate the position value, interpret it, subtract it from 10 to figure out what my current value is. It's just all extra things that add more work that I really shouldn't need to do. And if we go to the track bar control in the signature controls, I can manipulate the track bar's thumb right at design time, change the orientation, and it sees that, oh, you've decided to make this taller than wider, so let's change the orientation. We can also go in and change the style. So we'll make it a pointer, but let's make it a box. That's another option with tick marks on both sides. Speaking of tick marks, well, do we want to show the tick marks at all? Maybe we only want to show them every 2 positions. All of these are things that we can control simply through properties of the component. One of the things I like, we wanted that mixer control. Let's say we're doing a volume. There's a built-in mixer control. What's nice is if I look at the position value, it's 5. If I go down, it's down to 0. If I go up, it's 10. It's what I would expect it to be, which makes it much easier to set up, change the properties, and now code my application, which is really what we're trying to do here. So as noted earlier, the Konopka Signature VCL Controls provides full support for VCL styles, and so we can go ahead and drop a list down of the styles that have been registered with this interface. For example, the Iceberg Classico, and it loads up the style, and you can see that all the different elements all pick up the current style settings. We can even go ahead and change this to the Windows 10 VCL style, which was really designed for the touch interfaces of Windows 10 applications. So it's a little, the checkboxes and elements are much larger than the traditional default, as we've been seeing from before, since I'm on a Windows 10 machine. But it picks up all those elements, changes the button styles and so forth as necessary to give you the look and feel that you need. And of course, you can always go back to the regular Windows, and again, these are the Windows 10 default styles, which actually look more like the flat styles that the signature controls have been using for quite some time. Again, the key values, if we go back to the IDE, what really separates the Konopka signature controls from other components, certainly those that are included in the VCL library itself, is all of the designer capabilities that are available and the attention to detail that goes into the various properties that are there. For example, something as simple as the radio group that we offer, going in and editing the items, and there's a specialized dialog for doing that, and we can set up multiple columns and set up different values as necessary. And so if I wanted to put in shipping values, so like the US Postal Service and FedEx, and then might want to call this if United Parcel Service, being able to set up multiple length items, for example, and changing the column to be 3, we note and we can see that it actually figures out the spacing for the control and will put them in the right spot. And this gives me a preview of what this component looks like. And when I go ahead and do that, that's how it's set. And so it's much easier to manage and manipulate the controls to get the effect that you want. I can even go in and set that I want the FedEx to be the default just at design time. So this level of detail, this level of designer support is what really highlights the signature controls and makes them makes you developers much more effective at designing and developing your interfaces and spending less time working about the user interface and more time implementing the business rules and implementing the functionality that's needed inside of your applications.